Good morning. Today, let's go back to 1987 and a film called Wall Street, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. Now, Wall Street, the original film Wall Street, the first Wall Street, is one of two films that I always use as an example of how people misinterpreted a film. And then, because of the success of the film, it changed culture permanently afterwards to embody the misinterpretation along the way. Now, with Wall Street, Oliver Stone, the director and co-writer, wanted to portray stockbrokers and investors. Now, the trouble is those occupations are relatively boring and not much action happens. And also, for the most part, they are safe, usually honest, not prone to risk-taking and with an eye to the long term, which is partly what makes them boring. Obviously, there are exceptions, but in general, it's a boring topic. Now, the larger point of the film is to illustrate how misbehaviour such as market manipulation and insider trading are bad things. And that is the exception to the standard behaviour in those occupations. Of course, what happened was that the general public saw the trappings of success of the character Gordon Gekko due to his antisocial, abrasive, aggressive and brutal bullying behaviour. The general public decided that this is the way to success. And as a result, Canary Wharf became full of absolute bastards walking about in braces and slicked back gelled hair, shouting at everybody else like mentally deficient gorillas. The age of the yuppie went on for about a decade and it was insufferable. Those are precisely the kind of people that you'd be really justified in punching in the face, and I'm positive a lot of intolerable, bad-mannered yuppies were on the receiving end of such encouragement after a few beers. So you see, the film was misinterpreted, and then yuppies came along and lived out the opposite of the message of the film for quite some time after. Maybe still going. I think it still has a lot of effect, and that's not a good thing. Now, Oliver Stone and Stanley Weiser wrote the screenplay. Weiser's first draft was initially it was called Greed. The film was set in 1985, yet anachronistically it mentions the Challenger shuttle disaster, which hadn't happened yet. Stone's stylist was Alan Flusser, who pointed out that everyone dressed so boringly when they were looking at traders and stockbrokers and investors that Flusser pointed out, look, they're all dressing really boringly. These are boring people. And Stone said, well, yeah, they're stockbrokers and investors. They are boring people. And Flusser maintained that it would be better to dress them up rather than be realistic. It would make a better film. So Flusser made the costume design, not just for Gordon Gekko, but all of the traders, and going back to the 30s, 40s, contrast collars and contrast cuffs to make it look more intimidating. Contrast collars and contrast cuffs comes from the days when cuffs and collars were detachable. So they would be washed more frequently than the rest of the shirt, and often a different colour. And aggressive and powerful styles, Flusser put in lots of really aggressive, powerful styles, highly exaggerated. The braces holding the trousers up, the cufflinks, the tie clips. You see, up until that film, all of those were considered old-fashioned, and not many people wore them. And if you did see people wearing it, it was your granddad. Now, both the collars and cuffs and the braces were older styles, as I say, from past decades. The shoulders were padded in the jackets and suits, again, to intimidate. All bold colours, not complicated, and if there was a complicated pattern, it would be an aggressively complicated pattern, but generally flat and bold colours. And it's not really this isn't a real fashion that people were wearing, not at all. This was entirely fabricated by Flusser. He created the corporate raider style as a costume. Literally a costume for the film. However, the film made such an impact upon a whole generation, and arguably all generations since, that people in the streets started wearing exactly this sort of style, and soon it became the cultural fashion of the yuppie, all because of this film. Now, I mentioned that there's another film that I always use as an example, and I'll tell you that another day. So, today was 1987's Wall Street. Have a very good day, and thank you very much. Subscribe and like if you like. Bye.